The IEC says it's confident that all logistical, human resource and safety preparations are in place to ensure free, fair and safe elections. Masego Sheburi, who you saw in that clip, the IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, joins me now live. Mr. Sheburi, thanks indeed for your time this evening. So it's all systems go for the by-elections, but the special vote begins tomorrow.
That is correct, Ms. Lewis. Tomorrow we will open voting stations at which persons have successfully applied for a special vote that will be cast at a voting station. Similarly, we will go out into areas within the wards, places of confinement, into homes to administer special votes to those persons who have successfully applied to be visited at home because they are unable to physically attend to a voting station on the day of the by-election.
Yeah. Mr. Sheburi, so these elections obviously taking place, these by-elections taking place while we're still in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic. So what health and safety protocols have you ensured are put in place to ensure that the voters themselves are safe?
The safety of the voters and that of our staff is of paramount consideration to the Electoral Commission. To that end, we will, as is a requirement everywhere in the country, in public places, insist that persons who visit our voting station observe the protocols that we have derived in consultation with political parties. The first is that there will be social distancing in the queues at the voting station. We'll have social distancing aids to assist persons to maintain social distancing. We will insist that everyone who comes into the voting station must have a face covering or a mask on. We will sanitize the hands of the voters and everyone who enters the voting station at 2 points, at the point where they enter the station and at the point where they leave the voting station. Inside the voting station, we will insist on social distancing, including among our staff, as well as political party agents who are representing political parties in the voting station. A person who wants to be 100% sure can also bring their own pen, but will sanitize the pens that we provide at the voting station. The biggest area of risk would have been the point at which we mark the left thumb of a voter with indelible ink to indicate that they have voted. Instead of using the ink pen that we have used traditionally and hitherto, we will use an ink applicator in a form of a cotton bud that will be a single-use applicator for each of the voters at the station.
Yeah. Every time we head to an election, whether it's a by-election or local government elections, there always tends to be a very high political climate. Are there any particular areas of concern or hotspots identified by you as the IEC currently?
This by-election has garnered a lot of media interest and there's also interest among persons in the wards in which there are vacancies. So far, we have not received any troubling reports of disruptions and or unrest targeted at the voting station. We continue to urge communities that an election and a by-election should be an opportunity for persons to refresh the mandate of the public representative. It should not be a arena for violent protest, because through exercising your vote, you could occasion change in your representation in the municipal council. So far, there are no reports that there will be any violence targeted at our voting stations.
If my memory serves me well, just finally, Mr. Sheburi, with budget cuts since 2016, that would certainly hamper on things like voter education. And I wouldn't say that I'm not particularly worried about that during this by-election, but this would set the scene for next year's local government election. What challenges do budget cuts come with, in addition to things like voter education, for example?
Indeed, budget cuts have far-reaching implications on our operation, but so that you do not come across as people who are not mindful of the financial situation in the country. We are acutely aware that there is no money to spare in the country. So all of us, including the Electoral Commission, is being asked to do more with less resources. We have looked at a budget in its entirety, from staffing to areas of outreach, and we have occasioned cuts in all areas so that we do not dilute the role that we must play, and that at the level of a voting station, we can still put in an election activity that the voters deserve and they can be proud of.
Masego Sheburi, thank you very much indeed for your time this evening. Thanks for joining us on The Full View, the IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer. Thanks indeed for your time this evening.